Hello. I know this has been a while that I made a video, but I really need to get more into a regular basis than just periodically. But in any case, and I'm still working on a major project where I am going through Das Kapital, Volume 1, 2, and 3, and also using Davis Harvey commentaries of those books. And the premise of what I'm going to do in these videos is I'm going to break, I'm going to do something like a couple chapters, and then I'm going to break it apart and try to bring it to modern day. It's like try to use what Karl Marx was trying to say in these sections, and then bring it to modern day. Just a little a sneak peek of what those videos are going to be. A lot of times, in his writings, he's using something called dialectic materialism. It is a way of thinking that we don't use anymore, and it is really difficult to analyze this way of thinking, because the way we tend to do today is, here's my argument, here's my counter argument, here's my counter argument. So we just try to do the bullet points. Like I would say, we have a Bob is cutting grass. He's doing. Then he's also going to the grocery store, and he's also going to bake. It's like a bullet point form. But you're going to try to say, no, he's actually not cutting grass. He's actually sleeping with his wife. He's just using the cutting grass as an excuse to not go to work. I'm just making some random example. But that's not what Karl Marx is doing. Dialectics, dialectic materialism, is actually like a merger of two philosophies together: material analysis and dialectics. Dialectics dates back all the way to ancient Rome, and I've not done much of this analysis in this channel, but a friend of mine, Robert Gurr, we've been going through Tertullian's writings, and I noticed, and Tertullian lives in the late 3rd century, so we're talking about over 2,000 years ago. And he's using dialectics. I automatically recognize what he was doing. Of course, my friend did not recognize it. He did not understood why he was what he was doing. And what he was doing is, he takes a concept, like, for example, Holy Spirit or begotten, and then he tries to analyze every different aspect of what that concept actually means. He's building up a case, finding counter argument, and trying to build it. It's like he tries to really look at every single different aspect of what being begotten of God, the begotten Son of God, actually mean. Now, of course, I'm going to have like a little bit in an actual example, when I do the video, and I'm actually thinking probably I'm going to do it more like a essay style, where I'm actually just going to use quotes and that kind of thing instead of just doing it off of my head. I want it to be a little bit more professionally done. But I'm not sure. But it is something that I want to really dwell and show. And so as I was saying, he's talking about that. Then, what does Karl Marx do? What does Karl Marx do in chapters 1? He's analyzing what the word value means. And I was listening to a philosopher a while back, where he said that Karl Marx will portray will put two different kind of counter argument, different kind of like opposite idea, and you cannot really reconcile those ideas. But that's what synthesis is. You try to reconcile those ideas to show the actual outcome of those effect. But you have to understand that you can't just have one set of definition. And one of the biggest issue that people run today is that people only thinks by and large in black and white terms. They say, here's a dictionary definition, and you cannot go outside of that definition. And then if you try to do it, you say, oh, you're just redefining words. That's a very limiting worldview, a limiting way to think about the world. Definitions that dictionary uses is not an end point, but a starting point. It is generally a way to see. That's what generally what the general population understands a word, but they can't. But a word can't exactly encompass every. Like a definition cannot really encompass all the meanings of a word. And Dan McCallan, he's a religious scholar, and he's one of the person that really points out the issues that I know of, who's a scholar who's pointing out the issue of the limiting factors of definition, where you say different table. Okay, it's a piece of wood with 4 legs that's kind of like a rectangular shape. Okay, could it also be a chair? And definitions is very limiting. And by the way, going about the Tertullian, if you're interested to see me talking about religious stuff, I recommend to go to a YouTube channel called LDS Christians. This is where my friend Robert Gurr and I are going through Tortorian's writings, chapter by chapter. Like we're doing it, like we are analyzing whether or not Tortorian thought the Trinity, and anyways, and we're going through chapter to chapter to really analyze what he thought. I am not going into the detail in this video because that's not the point. I just point out if you're just interested to know my views on religion, you can check that out. There's also another channel that I do. Anyways, it's like I think it's like Upholds. And anyways, I have to really find it on the channel. But there's another group of people that do videos about religion, about the church fathers and all that. But anyways, that's a different story. Going back to what I was saying about Karl Marx. The first chapter, he analyzed what value mean and what commodity mean and the different facade of it. And you can see that he does not limit himself to a single definition. And which is why he warns at the beginning of his book, don't just read a little section here and there. Read the whole thing, because he's doing an analysis that has multiple layers. Like David Harvey, like an example that he used to describe Karl Marx's writings. It is like an onion, and there's different layers of that onion, where he starts at the surface level and then it goes all the way to the bottom and then rebuilds up. So you have to understand what he's doing is not what people think it is. So why does it matter in modern day? After all, Israel was 200 years ago. Don't we have modern economists that has better things to say? Unfortunately, no. After Karl Marx, there's a school of economic thought that became very popular, neoliberalism. They also like to call themselves market economists or classical economists. And I do this in quotes because they really aren't. And as someday, I will have to show how, and this is something that a lot of people do not understand about Karl Marx. They think, they have this belief that Karl Marx built his belief out of resentment because he was just this nut job. What he failed to understand is that when he writes his analysis, he using quotes from people that came before him. Like, he used some of the biggest economist names in the during the Enlightenment era, like Adam Smith, Richard Carnard, I always forget his last name. He's another big economist, and Immanuel Kant, and he will look and use the Enlightenment era economists, and he takes their argument at face value and then critique them. So when people say that Carter was not an economist, which so many conservatives will say, which boggles my bloody mind, is that they're also invertibly saying that Adam Smith is not a real economist. Because his arguments that he makes comes, as I'm trying to make it very clear, is from Adam Smith. What the neoliberals did instead is like they cherry pick the arguments that they like about these philosophers, and then they pretend they're classical liberal. Ignore anything they disagree with, only pick that they like, even though what the argument that they're actually making, most often than not, is not what they're actually really saying. One example that I'm going to use is John Locke. Murray Rothbard, in his book Towards a New Liberty or something like that, and at some point I am planning to tear through this book apart to really show the illogical arguments that Murray Rothbard is making. There's many of them. Anyways, that will be a different time. But what I am specifically talking about now is what he tried to use John Locke. He was quoting John Locke about he's trying to make the claim that he is trying to make an argument about property and how the business owners are the owner of property. So he's trying to use John Locke's quote, argument of property, as a way to say that property belongs to the business owner. John Locke, when you read in context what he was saying about property, is a property belongs to a person if he harvests an apple and he keeps harvesting until the point that creates a surplus where that apple starts to perish, then that property belongs to him. Any surplus no longer belongs to him. In other words, the property he has physically have to do the work in order to own that property. But he can't do so much work where there's a waste of resources. any excess resources is no longer belongs to him. Yet, Murray Rothbard do not address the Murray just quotes it and says that because the business owns the tools, therefore any product that is being made under him belongs to him. And who cares about the surplus? Like, who cares if crops perish? If there's a surplus of material that the business doesn't own and it just becomes waste. And he doesn't address that part. He just basically says that, oh yeah, because the business owns something, is making a commodity, then therefore that business owns it. However, there is no concept whatsoever of what about the people who works within the company? Aren't they should be part owner of that property? Why is it that the business owner magically have the rights of all the properties inside of the business simply because he's the owner? He never addressed that issue. Here's the thing with Karl Marx. Karl Marx analyze this issue. At first, he's going to talk about like how business create products, and he's going to try to analyze the relationship between the business owner and how this difference between like dead labor versus live labor. Anyways, I'm just going to leave it at that. This is just a sneak peek of what I'll be discussing in my longer video. It's going to be a while because there's so much information I'll go through. But you're getting just a really quick analysis of what is happening. So, I want to briefly talk about the US elections right now. These are just getting crazier. It's just crazier and crazier and crazier. Like, we already know how bad Donald Trump is. But at this point, again, a lot of people have been saying that conservatives and fascism always goes hand to hand. Like, I've been saying that for a while. But he has reached such a level of insanity that it is absolutely mind-boggling. There is no excuse anymore for not calling Donald J. Trump a fascist, a Nazi supporter. Why do I say that? There's the whole Asian immigrant comment. They eat the gas, they eat the dogs. That went viral during his debate with Kamala Harris. Literally trying to demonize Haitian migrants, trying to call legal immigrants illegal. We also know that the whole Asian migrant eating dogs and cats. It was misinformation that came from a neo-Nazi group called Blood Tide. Like, the amount of Nazis that the conservatives are among their ranks is insane. You can't, as Kyle Kolansky said, is that it does not take long when you try to look through people's profile in conservative groups that you'll find a Nazi right there waiting, waiting for people to spew their Nazi rhetoric. It's like, they love Holocaust denialism. I was like a while back. This is all like conservatives doing polls within their audience. So it's not this like all liberals are trying to house Nazis, that type of deal. Like, and these polls are like, they're not small samples. Like somewhere around like 40,000, 9,000 people responding. Like in one of them, they were talking about how, basically saying that the good guy lost World War II. Over something like 70% agree with that statement. Let that sink in. The good guys lost World War II. Who lost in World War II? Why are you calling them the good guys? Now, we have Donald Trump talking about he wants to want to use the 1798 Act, an act that's from 1798. What was that act about? What is so big about this act? He can deport both legal and illegal immigrants. So basically, somebody who is a legal immigrant to the US will be deported. Can be deported at whim. This was this act that was used in World War II to put Japanese in camps. Yet he's talking about that he wants to deport 20 million immigrants. He's saying that in his rallies, openly stating it. Do I see conservatives losing their mind over such a statement? Of course not. Just recently, and talking about free speech, we're the free speech warriors who's always talking about cancel culture. just recently, Donald Trump sued like a news outlet who interviewed Kamala Harris for $20 billion. And that's not the first time he has done that. So the free speech crowd are not saying a jack shit about this stuff. Mr. Who cares about free speech? That the left is canceling is their opponent. They're making them silence. But they say absolutely zip about their guy doing anti-free speech stuff. Not a word. The left says, yeah, we care about free speech, but we don't believe in absolute free speech. There are some leftists who do believe in absolute free speech, some who doesn't. But we're at least honest to say what we mean by free speech. Conservatives, on the other hand, they say they care about free speech, but their action says otherwise. Elon Musk is known for this stuff. Like he cried how Twitter was censoring him and how the left is just censoring the right, even though the data actually says the opposite. Just saying. What does he do when he ever since he got Twitter? He's been censoring people left, right, and center that disagree with stake while promoting Nazism. Do right-winger afterwards actually say anything of Elon Musk? Essentially? No, of course not. They don't care about free speech. They just want their guy to be able to do whatever they want. This is why I hate conservatives so much. They're hypocrites. They are disgusting human beings. Like it utterly disgusts me. And there are some conservatives, and I would say these are the extreme minority, who actually do believe what they do, what they believe. But the vast majority of them, they're just hypocrites. They don't care about what they believe. They're not anti-war. They are just the biggest hypocrite out there who does not believe in their own values. Now does that mean Kamala Harris is off the park? No, of course not. Like I said, at some point I'm gonna have to make a video talking about what is a liberal and the different level of liberals that exist. Like we tend, yeah, but I am going to for to make it simple, a liberal wants to maintain the system of capital, while a leftist wants to abolish it. And the liberals wants to try to make reforms to make it more like livable. The conservative just wants to maintain, just let the power structure as is, crush anything that is remotely left to them, while pretending that they care for freedom. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Why is this important? Because Kamala Harris, like liberals will, like, and liberals all too often will side with conservatives in order to stop the left. What has Kamala Harris has been doing? She's been accepting a lot of conservatives like Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, and other conservative figurehead who, by and large, voted like 90% of the time. Like Liz Cheney, for example, voted 90% of the times every single policy that Donald Trump has ever done. But their issue is that Donald Trump basically went full fascist. Donald Trump stopped playing the game to pretend to be a fascist. He just made it full-blown fascist, as if it was a good thing. Well, yeah, basically. But does Kamala Harris actually support people that are further left than her? Like, for example, anti-Palestinian, anti-Zionist. Palestinians say, let's stop harming Israel to commit to Palestinian genocide. No, of course not. Tim Walz, who was the most leftist Democrat governor in the U.S., he is now bending the knee to Kamala Harris' view. And during his debate with J.D. Vance, you can see that he has to parrot lines that he disagree with as if he actually agrees. So he's basically lying on stage. While being border hawk, while basically also downplaying the Palestinian genocide, all that jazz. So you're already seeing how the enlightening centrists are bending the knee to center right, to the conservatives, while not allowing people further left than them to not have any voice. Now, there's one more part that I would like to discuss. So it's like, yeah, in the election in the U.S., like, and so what is really going to, so let's talk to the outcome of the U.S. elections. What's the ultimate? What's the ultimate consequence? If Harris gets into the White House, what is going to happen? And what is going to happen if Donald Trump gets in the White House? And what are the chances are for either party to win? So, let's start with Donald Trump, since it's going to be the easiest. Donald Trump basically is going to make it. You're going to have full-blown fascism happening in the U.S. Let's be real. You're going to have Project 2025 going to be in full swing. And by the way, before people say it's just a wish list, Project 2025 was a policy that was made by the Heritage Foundation. Conservatives has been following Heritage Foundation's policies since Ronald Reagan. And by and large, every time that they said, like, this is something I just recently discovered as I was doing some research on that. Basically, Heritage Foundation has been publishing policies that the Republicans would like to do, and by and large, when the GOP gets in control, 60% of their policies gets enacted. Of course, 60 the wish list that they want, 60% of their policies gets becomes law, becomes part of the system. So, a 900-page policy book, we can expect, which by the way, under Donald Trump, 60% of, once again, 60% of the policies that Heritage Foundation wanted actually happen. And Donald Trump praised the Heritage Foundation for all the great work. Which means that that Project 2025, even though there are 900 pages of policies that they want to enact, we can expect 60% of those 900 pages will be things that they will like, that is going to happen. Basically, things like basically destroying the administrative state, letting capitalists doing whatever the hell they want. They also go after things like banning porn, banning LGBTQ pro policies, probably ending gay marriage. They're going to go after things like overtime pay. They are going after, it's going to be one of those tremendous shift in U.S. policy. It's going to be the same level as what Reagan did in the 1970s. Not to mention, you have the largest deportation in history is going to happen. 20 million immigrants will be deported, whether or not they are citizen or not, because he wants to use this 1798 Act. You're going to have Nazis in all level of administrative state. And then also, another thing that Donald Trump was talking about the enemy within. Who's the enemy? The Democrats, who were the conservatives are convinced that the Democrats are communist. So you have that. So you're literally going to have, in real time, a period of Nazism that is going to happen. And Nazis, and you see Donald Trump using the same rhetoric of Nazis all the bloody time. It's like he demonized the immigrants, he demonized the LGBTQ, he demonized this is something that people don't understand about Nazism. Like conservatives are convinced that Nazism, in fact, is only about the centralization of power into the government. That's fascism. That collectivism is fascism. But what they fail to understand is that fascism, like one of the first steps towards fascism is the denial of class struggle. They want to maintain the system of capital. Like when you read any real historian, not conservative historian, but even some conservatives, like a real historian who does not have ideological basis, and I'm thinking I'm thinking of the liberal fascism, where they try to portray that he was the liberals who supported fascism, which was nonsense. It's such a nonsense book. He tries to portray that communists and liberals are fascist. Well, there's so many errors in that book. It's absolutely unbelievable. Any real historian will pick apart this book and show how ridiculous it is, which some actual real historian has actually done. A more critical analysis, and this is a book I highly recommend to anyone to read, is The Anatomy of Fascism. The Anatomy of Fascism by Robert Praxton, I think his name was. In any case, it looks like I have to do a part because I want to talk about Israel. I really need to talk about Israel and Palestine, the Palestinian genocide. Anyways, it's going to be part 2. I'm going to do it on my way home. So, finishing what I was saying here. Fascism they want to maintain the power because it was the conservative establishment who supported Mussolini, you supported Hitler, you had all kind of industrialists who supported them. Even you literally have quotes from Winston Churchill, who a conservative hero, a conservative icon, stating that if he was Italian, he would support Mussolini. Why? Because fascism was always about maintaining capitalism. But they want anyone that is remotely left to them. They're the enemy within. The enemy, it is the dirty Jews, the communists, the socialists, the anarchists, the LGBTQ, the poor and needy, the people that are any enemy that they pursue as a threat to capital they went after. That is what the core thing about fascism. In simple term, fascism is about maintaining capital while crushing anyone that is remotely left to them. That is where conservatives and fascism will always fall hand in hand. Liberals will sometimes be called social fascist because they might support some leftist ideas like LGBTQ stuff, but will govern like a conservative. They will always end up supporting conservatism, like what Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney dynamic. That's a perfect example of what a social fascist will do. And she will say abortion rights, but of course they never actually done anything about abortion. They never codified into law. They promised they would, but they never actually did. So, you literally have one candidate who's going to do this. The other candidate is saying, yeah, look at all those fascists over here. We are social fascists. We don't want to go forward. We might give you a little like housing credit here, business credit over here. We're going against price gouging a little bit here. We want to strengthen unions a little bit. But are they going to fundamentally change anything? No. Sure, you can have more liberal, some minor reforms. Those reforms are still better than none. But at the same time, they're not fundamentally undoing 40 years of neoliberal policies. They're still, they might increase taxes by a couple percentage. However, Reagan has a tax bracket of 40%. We're nowhere near that level. So they're not even suggested to go back to the same tax rate as Reagan. Not even the tax rate under the Keynesian era. Now, a lot of people talk about Keynesian, about spending, blah, 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 blah. The whole deficit thing is going to be another conversation, and it is something that I will be talking more about Karl Marx, and that will be another video. But the point is, I'm saying is that yes, domestically speaking, you might have some better policies, slightly better, but nothing majorly that's going to fundamentally do groundbreaking. They might have some good, even in the Infrastructure Act, it's like, yeah, there's they're reduced, 90% was gutted. And there's going to see a lot of those things. A lot of their policies will be gutted. There's going to be a very small amount of reforms that are actually good. An example of that success. 800,000 jobs, manufacturing came back to the U.S. while Donald Trump lost 200,000 in industrial job. So you kind of have that kind of things. But just because you have a job does not mean that people actually having living wage. And living wage is something that is still, they focus about jobs, not actually dealing about economic issues. This is where the issue with Democrats, they're not undergoing any policies where real wage will no longer be stagnant. Sure, there's going to be an increase of wages, but not enough that real wage is removed. A perfect example is minimum wage is still not $15 an hour. that thing is like, and that even at that time is actually on the minimum should be actually at least $24 an hour now. Fun fact, in order to actually undo, to actually like the stagnation to actually be completely be abolished, and we're still nowhere near that amount. Yet people, so while foreign policy, Kamala is going to still pursue the Palestinian genocide. She's going to try to say, oh, going to try to both sides needs to sit at the table, blah, 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 while not actually doing anything to actually stop it. Meanwhile, with Donald Trump, it was going to be like, oh yeah, we're just going to keep funding it, or we're going to allow the West Bank to be annexed. We already know that that Donald Trump is going to authorize the annexation of the West Bank, and he actually allowed, under his administration, he allowed the annexation of like some part of Syria, like a go along the Golden Heights. He allowed Israel to annex this part, like. So the issue of Israel is going to be much, much, much worse under Donald Trump. But with Kamala Harris is going to try to portray some semblance of peace while not doing anything. She's not going to call off any harm to Israel. She's not going to condemn Israel to be a terrorist state. She's not going. We already know that Biden has blocked multiple resolutions in the UN to stop this genocide. And there's literally nothing. Measure is going to change. So in this note, this is going to be another part one. The part two, I'm going to focus on Israel and the Palestinian genocide. There's a lot of things to cover that is important to discuss. And yes, and a lot of it is going to be about, like, just a little like foreshadowing of what is going to be the video about, is talking about all those liberal Zionists who is trying to cancel anti-Zionist leftists. I'm looking at you, Ethan Klein. I'm also looking at you Noxenor. We need to have a serious discussion of the issue with liberal Zionists and why liberals are so infuriating. Till then, have a good one.